Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everyone is keeping well. On behalf of the organizing committee, let me extend our warm welcome to the first on-record session for the digital transformation track of the Y20 Indonesia 2022. My name is Biondi Sima. I was an Indonesian delegate at the Y20 Turkey 2015, and now I am your digital transformation track chair, and I will preside today's session. By means of introduction of our chairing team, we have Desi Visiana and Pandu Kartika Putra as our track sous-chairs, alongside with Theo Gerald Parluhutan Napitupulu as a conference officer. This session will be the first encounter where all delegates from the digital transformation track are given the opportunity to deliver a verbal intervention for a maximum of 3 minutes each, sequentially in an alphabetical order. All delegates will be given the opportunity to speak first, followed by the observers. No slide sharing is allowed during the verbal intervention. We kindly request delegates and observers to rename their Zoom account into your country's or organization's name that you are representing, underscore with the track abbreviation, and underscore with your personal name. In this session, we would also like to welcome delegates and observers from other tracks and the pre-summit audience and the public who are watching and observing delegates' verbal intervention. Before we begin with the verbal intervention session, we will do a roll call and a brief presentation of the digital transformation white paper issued by the Y20 Indonesia 2022. Now we will begin with the roll call. Delegate whose country's name is being called may respond with present. I'll go through this in an alphabetical order. Delegates first, followed by the observers. Argentina, Delegate of Argentina is not here. Australia, Delegate of Australia is not here. Brazil, Delegate of Brazil is not here. Canada.
Sorry, I'm here.
Australia is present. Thank you, Delegate of Australia.
Argentina is present.
And Argentina as well. Thank you, Delegate of Argentina. Sorry, I might move too fast. So Brazil, you're also present. Canada?
Present.
Thank you, Delegate of Canada. China?
Present. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate of China. France?
Present.
Thank you, Delegate of France. Germany?
Present.
Thank you, Delegate of Germany. India?
Present.
Thank you, Delegate of India. Indonesia?
Present.
Thank you, Delegate of Indonesia. Italy?
Present.
Thank you, Delegate of Italy. Japan?
Present.
Thank you, Delegate of Japan. South Korea? Delegate of South Korea is not here. Mexico?
Present.
Thank you, Delegate of Mexico. Russia?
Present.
Thank you, Delegate of Russia. Saudi Arabia?
Present.
Thank you, Delegate of Saudi Arabia. South Africa? Is South Africa here? Delegate of South Africa is not here. Turkey? Is Turkey here? Delegate of Turkey is not here. United Kingdom?
The United Kingdom is present.
Thank you, Delegate of United Kingdom. United States of America?
Present.
Thank you, Delegate of the United States of America. Now we're moving on to the observers. ASEAN?
Present.
Thank you, Delegate of ASEAN. United Arab Emirates?
Present.
Thank you, UAE. World Trade Organizations? Is WTO here? International Monetary Fund? Nigeria? All right. Could the chairing team or the conference officers let us know how many delegates are present? And the European Union. Thank you so much, EU, for letting us know. Yes. Delegate of European Union, are you here?
Yeah, present. Thank you.
Thank you, EU. Could the chairing team let us know how many delegates are present?
There is 19 delegates present.
Thank you. 19
majority vote.
All right. So 19 delegates are present in the first on-record session of the digital transformation track. Now, thank you, delegates. Now we're moving on to the next agenda. And considering that we are hosting delegates from other tracks as well, we will begin with a brief presentation of the digital transformation white paper. This is to set the context and the foundations of the forthcoming discussions as well. So I would request the technical team to please share the screen. All right, thank you so much. Distinguished delegates and esteemed guests, I think we are all aware of the pandemic that has shrunk our mobility to travel around, and it has also greatly incapacitated our health and economy. But the opposite is true for the digital transformation. The COVID-19 has served as a major boost to transform business as usual and shift many brick and mortar industries into digital platforms. If we may look at the next slide, please. This digital transformation white paper would explore a wide spectrum of issues pertaining, number one, youth roles in digital governance, and secondly, on digital financial awareness. Both are strongly aligned with one of the key pillars of the Indonesia's G20 presidency. Some of our interesting findings from our survey with SINT, with over 5,700 respondents across the G20 members, as you can observe on your screen, are that firstly, connectivity remains a major constraint from realizing equitable growth in digital economy. A remarkable 61% of young people across G20 countries have issues with internet connectivity, including slow, unstable, and expensive access to the internet. But nonetheless, digital economy enjoys a huge potential to attain sustainable development. Between 2011 to 2014, for example, digital payment unlocked access to over 700 million people, help paving the pathway out of extreme poverty. We also noticed there is a persistent talent gap between supply and demand. Taking a closer look at which talents do G20 youth refers to exactly, when we're talking about the skills deficit, the G20 youths feel that software development, security, and data are the top 3 required digital skills for future readiness. If may turn into the next slide, please. Now, the relationship between the youth and the digital industry portrays 2 sides of a coin. On the head, digital innovation is mostly led by youth as the digital native, but on the tail, youth remains disproportionately affected by the speed of changes that are often catered by still nascent and ambiguous policy framework. To enable sustainable recovery, we believe that digital dividends have to be enjoyed by all. The policy and standards governing digital transformation need to empower youth and to narrow this gaping inequality, including by scrutinizing, number one, the widening digital divide and the absence of infrastructure, not only in 3G, 4G, 5G coverage, but also in competitive price setting, speed and stability, service reliability, and ensuring the presence of enabling infrastructures in logistics, warehousing, electricity, postal services, etc., that can render digital economy accessible by all. Secondly, still on the screen, connectivity without the capacity to harness this facility will do little to no change. We need to address the lack of digital literacy and skill deficit in short and long-term time frame. And thirdly, with more uptake, meaning more data, including personally identifiable information, will become available. So consequently, investment in policy and technical designs to safeguard privacy and security risk need to be intensified. But on the other side, it is not all doom and gloom. The ICT sector opened job opportunities to an estimated 55.3 million people worldwide in 2020 alone. And again, policy designs are critical to capture much of the benefits and ensure the youth could manifest their potential in the following 3. Number one, youth engagement. And thirdly, enabling youth participation to solve common socio-economic political problems towards collective recovery and resilience. Next slide, please. Now, when we talked about digital technology and connectivity, oftentimes access is not necessarily translated into meaningful growth and gains. In fact, according to a recent World Bank report, Beyond Unicorns, only 3% of online activities in Indonesia have commercial values. Digital payment will become the next frontier, enabling people to optimize the value creation from their online activities. However, another catch, this is also taken from the Indonesian example. Over half of the financially excluded population are not aware of the presence, usage, and the benefits of digital financial services, or DFS. This is why we chose to promote the awareness of overall digital financial literacy under one of the priorities of the Y20 Indonesia, because we understand that the majority of the people are still even not aware of the presence and the usage and the benefits of digital financial services. Now, the issues on this front is also quite broad, covering in challenges side, number one, supply and demand risk factors by identifying barriers to youth uptake from supply and demand dimensions. Secondly, lack of financial literacy by addressing the fundamental in financial literacy for youths to buffer shocks during unfortunate times. And number three, the rise of digital currency and cryptocurrency, including CBDCs, by anticipating risk from spurring blockchain-enabled currencies. From the opportunity side, delegates are expected to think through, firstly, how do we expand DFS beyond just the convenience of doing transactions from home or from our dining tables, but how to unleash the potential of DFS in relations to poverty eradications or SDGs attainment. For example, through lessening barriers to remittance transfers or providing healthy cash flows through microloans to small youth enterprises. And secondly, improving financial inclusion and women empowerment by democratizing access and promoting women inclusion in mainstream economy. And lastly, by deepening use cases for more advanced DFS uptakes, by exploring use cases for government and private sectors to harness emerging technologies, for example, for a more well-targeted cash transfers to poor households or a more efficient tax collection. There are indeed a lot of uncertainties and dynamics when we look at the issues of the digital world, and a lot has been said on these issues, yet the remaining elephant in the room is often the question, how? Today, we will hear from you, distinguished delegates, from the digital transformation track on your stance, preliminary thoughts, and policy proposals on this very broad issue. So I hope everyone is ready with the policy proposals. We'll turn off the slide share, please. Now, distinguished delegates, we're essentially done with the boring part of today's session. Now, here is your turn. Each of you, distinguished delegate, will have precisely 3 minutes to deliver your intervention. Down below your video, you'll have a time display. Should you exceed this time cap, we apologize in advance that we will have to cut you short. But on the contrary, should you have some time left, after you speak, you may either continue speaking or yield the remaining time to the chair. I'm just going to check if this is clear for everyone. Fantastic. Thank you, delegates. Now, let's hear from Delegate of Argentina.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you all. It is a pleasure to be able to share this consensus building day with you. COVID pandemic has accelerated digital transformation and has revelated that digital technologies are of a vital importance in the subject of sustainable development, bringing us new opportunities and challenges. The pandemic has exposed the huge gaps in terms of the adaptation of these new technologies. In Latin America, for instance, 38% of the population lack internet access, and less than 40% have only a basic level of computer literacy. It is also evident that this pandemic has distorted youth lives. But we know there have been the promoters of big technology solutions in an effort to fight the crisis. Young people are a key factor in transformation. As Latin American and Argentinian, I consider the power of digitalizations in creating effective ways to reach development, but only if they are universal and inclusive. It is known that digital technologies are a fundamental tool, especially in order to empower youth and women. These are the reasons why I strongly believe it is time to increase efforts and close digital gaps and guarantee internet accessibility in the most vulnerable sectors. In addition, youth participation in digital governances is being hampered for their lack of digital skills. In order to address that issues, it's mandatory to create and carry out actions and public policies to enhance digital literacy to acquire the technological competencies needed that will allow them to enter the labor market, as well as digital transformations offer opportunities for the youth people. It also has its cost. In order to protect personal information and user privacy, it is compulsory to recognize data privacy as a human right. It is crucial to promote financial literacy for the youth, especially for young, native, and rural women. The future is digital. Reconstructions is connected with the digital transformation, and we, the young people, have a key role to fight for that. We must defend and guarantee an open and inclusive digitalization and ensure ourselves with commitment and determination to eradicate gaps to leave people behind. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Delegate of Argentina. Next to speak is Delegate of Australia.
Thank you, Track Chair. The fourth industrial revolution and digitization represents a monumental shift in the way our society operates, but we cannot be complacent about the challenges it also presents. Digital governance must put the needs of people first. It should promote a more just society that benefits the well-being of everyone. As the delegates of Y20 Indonesia, we can shine a light on the issues that matter, and together I believe we can do great things. To help our collective light shine brighter, I would like to share with you some policy opportunities that can promote peace, improve youth financial resiliency, and support youth mental health. First, to promote peace, there is a pressing need to consider the ultimate dangers of artificial intelligence in warfare. As it stands, artificial intelligence has the potential to cause a significant loss of human life and wage war on an unprecedented scale that threatens global stability. I would like to share an opportunity to add artificial intelligence to the internationally governed list of weapons of mass destruction through a new treaty to prevent its worst impacts when being used in war. Second, to improve youth financial resiliency, we need to consider the welfare of individuals who have lost their job from automation. I would like to affirm the importance for employers to provide reasonable financial assistance to help individuals retrain and seek new employment. Financial institutions can support youth in pausing debt repayments for retraining or job loss. Like other delegates, I share a concern for the priority of digital financial literacy to improve youth resilience. To add, there is an opportunity to establish a network to help with the transfer of best practices and knowledge between countries. Finally, to support youth mental health, attention is needed on the lack of transparency and accountability of secret content ranking formulas used by social media and news platforms that can cause mental distress. I would like to share an opportunity to give consumers more control over content they see. There is also an imperative to address youth suicide globally through more digital and free self-help tools and crisis support services. Greater preventative measures could also be taken by getting technology companies to confidentially share data with national health agencies if a person is found to be at risk of self-harm or suicide. It has been an honour to shine a light on these issues to ensure greater respect and dignity of people in this digital age. I look forward to hearing from you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate of Australia. You still have 20 seconds. Would you like to yield it to the chair? Okay, I guess that we can have the remaining time. Now, next to speak is Delegate of Brazil. You may please have the screen.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Caroline, and it's an honor and a pleasure to contribute to this discussion. Our proposal has three strategic fronts. The first is to create a digital transformation policy designed by a youth-centered approach that listens and addresses the needs of our group and especially its intersectionalities, which is the group most negatively affected. This DT policy should design regulatory frameworks and policy interventions to improve digital infrastructure and literacy. The policy includes 1. Building infrastructure and in schools, university and public space for bringing connective and access to technology and equipment to the entire population, especially rural and from less well-off families, to bridge the digital divide and to reduce the impacts that pandemic has brought about in relation to the number of students who left school due to lack of equipment and connectivity. The 2 is to create a new curriculum for elementary and high public schools that includes hard and soft skills, such as data and technology literacy, financial literacy, and ICT knowledge. Besides that, also includes tech for good, that is the using of technology to solve the great challenge of society, such as the SDGs, and ensure ethics, security, and privacy in the use of this technology. The second part of this proposal is the creation and strengthening of national and international data privacy policies that protect citizens as their right and educate organizations and institutions about that. The third part is a public incentive with technical assistance and funding for the building and adapting of the digital technology that enables faster, cheap, more inclusive, and more convenient digital financial services, which will promote financial inclusion by adapting the current bank scores to be more inclusive, especially targeting youth and women. Besides that, we advocate for advanced financial and digital literacy programs through partnerships with the academy, private, and third sector. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen and consider our proposal. And I'm always open to discuss our ideas further with other delegates and observers. Obrigada.
Thank you, Delegate of Brazil. Next to speak, let's hear from Delegate of Canada.
Good evening, bonsoir, Honorable Track Chair, delegates, observers, and youth from around the world. My name is Samir Ismail, and I'm the Canadian Delegate for Digital Transformation. I'm from Vancouver, BC, Canada, on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. I would like to first express my gratitude to Indonesian Youth Diplomacy and the organizing committee for gathering us here today. For today's youth, both our present and our future opportunities are digital. But we don't yet have all the safeguards we need during this transition, and we aren't yet able to seize all the opportunities that this transition can offer. So today I'm proposing 4 policy actions that will push the Y20 and resultingly the G20 to modernize digital policy centered around youth. First, we know that government needs to lead the transition to a digital world in order to ensure that citizens, especially youth, are protected. We propose that we transition the G20 digital government principles, which were established by digital economy ministers in 2018, into a G20 strategy on digital by design government, composed of key performance indicators that include action to digitally reorganize government processes and structures, support a data-driven public sector and user-driven public services, hire more young policymakers, and increase open data for human-centered policy cooperation. Second, to protect youth online, we propose that the G20 adopt a digital safety and accessibility charter with the expressed intention of committing governments to increase access to technology while protecting personal data and privacy and preventing biases in data collection. This can supplement action to grow access to digital financial services because it can give governments the groundwork to prevent predatory lending practices and financial disinformation online that disproportionately harms young people. Third, we know that the process of digital transformation will leave youth behind if we do not push for equity through the expansion of infrastructure. Canada proposes that we push for both hard infrastructure, such as satellite and broadband internet access, and soft infrastructure, such as academic partnerships to develop micro-credentials, and digital skills training for those most at risk of being marginalized in the digital economy. Finally, we wish to foster digital, financial, and media literacy skill sets for young people. Everything from identifying misinformation to digital financial services to protecting personal financial information is crucial for youth to be aware of. On this front, we propose that these principles become directly integrated into primary and secondary educational frameworks, but that we do so alongside investments in software training for our teachers and hardware for schools so that we can support those who deliver these curriculums. I look forward to working with all of my fellow delegates on these ideas and others in the weeks ahead. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Delegate of Canada. Next in line, let's hear from Delegate of China.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Biondesima. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Ye Kai from China. It is my honor to share my thoughts on digital transformation here with all of you. Digital technologies present enormous opportunities for our society, as well as the danger of a new digital divide. It is a task in front of us to build a community with a shared future in cyberspace for all humankind. Particularly, I believe that multilateral development banks and governments should be urged to support electricity and digital infrastructure construction in underdeveloped regions, and digital literacy should be included as a goal for primary and middle school education. To empower domestic society's digital transformation, governments can move forward to establish online service platforms as public goods. On the other hand, we also need a global digital standard that safeguards cybersecurity and privacy and inhibits disinformation spread while promoting openness and cooperation. Last but not least, as the most active participants of online activities, youth should be explicitly acknowledged as stakeholders in the current multi-stakeholder internet governance mechanism. Digital financial awareness is another theme for our track. I suggest that we establish special credit systems for young people to ensure that they are not excluded from digital financial services at the beginning due to a lack of credit records. Such credit systems are also responsible for encouraging positive digital financial practices. To equip everyone with digital financial literacy, we can promote affordable online training programs designed for people from underdeveloped areas. Meanwhile, it is critical to have a secure and inclusive digital payment infrastructure to boost our digital economy. Thus, we need to promote central bank digital currencies in a steady and controllable manner while paying close attention to the potential risks of cryptocurrencies, preventing them from being exploited by illegal activities such as money laundering. Okay, these are the main points of my policy proposal, and I am looking forward to discussing more possibilities with you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, Delegate of China. Now let's hear from Delegate of European Union.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes, thank you, Delegate.
Thank you. I'm delighted to address you today, representing the delegation of the European Union, relying on these very digital tools that we will discuss during the next couple of months, despite their troubles from time to time. However, we believe it's important to remember that digital transformation extends far beyond the issues of technology policy and governance and has to address the social and economic effects of the technological advances of digitalization. In this conversation, we believe it's crucial to recognize those who are not present in G20 and the digital gaps that exist between and within countries. As an example, to illustrate these different realities, in Nairobi, Kenya, an average worker might make around 100 shilling a day and spend 20 shilling a day for 20 to 30 minutes of internet access, meaning that they spent 20% of their daily income basically having access to the internet for the same amount of time. Many of us might watch an episode of our favorite sitcom on Netflix. I believe that's something we have to consider as we go forward. With this example in mind, we believe that it's crucial in what is the European Year of Youth, we come together to present G20 leaders with inclusive, actionable, and ambitious policies. The European Union presents its policy proposal under 3 sub-themes. Firstly, overcoming access and usage gaps for digital technology. This should be pursued through people-centered policies that target 5 key barriers: affordability, digital literacy, trust, relevance, and affordability. Secondly, recognizing the needs for new approaches to digital governance with a strong focus on prioritizing safety and inclusivity. Here we believe it's important to share good practices across borders and pursue global and regional standard setting, which allow all countries to shape norms. Specifically, we believe it's necessary to limit the monopolistic powers of large tech companies, and we welcome yesterday's Digital Market Act from the European Union. Lastly, supporting an equal and inclusive global digital economy. As I earlier touched on, individuals face different digital realities. However, countries do too. It's vital that we do not allow low and middle income countries to become marginalized in the global digital value chain, such as by being dumping grounds for e-waste, and that digital transformation policies and programs are intensely localized. While I've been speaking to you now, I invite you to reflect on the fact that in Kenya, the data I required to speak with you today for 3 minutes would have required 2% of my daily income, while attending this session as a whole would have required 80% of my daily income. It is crucial that we get the basics right, and we do not rush ahead on technological advances that are not fit for purpose and leave people and countries behind. I sincerely thank you for your attention and look forward to many engaging and productive conversations in the coming months. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for your reflection, Delegate of EU. Now we'll turn the screen to Delegate of France.
Well, dear delegates, dear track chair, bonjour à tous. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am Jean-Baptiste Boissou, France Head Delegate and Digital Transformation Representative, and I am deeply happy and honored to be with you all today. Hearing your statements is particularly encouraging and thrilling in seeing what we can achieve as Youth 20 delegates. So as digital tools took more and more importance in our daily lives, in communicating with each other, working with each other, and sharing information, we need to take action to ensure that this current transformation, already deeply happening, reflect our common values. And the main value that France wishes to highlight is fairness. In that extent, we aim at ensuring a fair and global internet access for everyone, unless they would not have any digital transformation at all. We also aim at building an ethical internet by providing common guidelines for data collection, ensure common guidelines for data privacy as a human right through GDPR-like and cybersecurity policies, and also to create an ethical process to certify digital models and associated products such as AI. To achieve these goals, we are aware that important action should be taken in setting up an efficient internet governance. And that's why we aim at promoting the creation of an international organization for digital purposes under the high patronage of the United Nations. Stepping up from there, efficient and unbiased access to digital tools need to rely on 2 main pillars. First, fight efficiently disinformation and fake news by prohibiting digital media concentration and support development of digital transformation platform by citizens. Also develop sourcing and fact-checking tools in most used digital platforms such as social media today. And also ensure political and public stakeholders' integrity with regard to fake news diffusion. We also aim at providing global digital education by aligning education proposed tracks with workplace needs in terms of digitization and related tools, and also favor coding and digital training in prison in related environments for reinsertion purposes, especially with regard to young people and convicts. As digital transformation is advancing, our topics are key in framing this change with accordance to other global topics. That's why France aims at promoting the dwarfing of environmental impact of digitization by imposing environmental impact and life cycle assessment for all new hardware and software products, and also regulating digital disruptive technologies such as cryptocurrencies. So France is thrilled by the opportunity to work all together in reaching these goals, and thanks to the action of young people from all around the globe. Thank you for your time and statements, with special greetings to Indonesia for organizing this meeting. Merci beaucoup à tous.
Thank you, Delegate of France. Now let's hear from Delegate of Germany.
All right. Thank you, Chair. Dear delegates and observers, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great honor that I represent the voice of German youth today on the digital transformation priority area. As I speak to you right now on an online platform, an estimated 30% of the world's youth do not have any access to the internet. Also, Germany, as a leading global economy, I want to be honest, has only made slow progress in digitalization. In order for everybody to benefit from the digital transformation, we urge the G20 members to achieve universal, inclusive, safe, and sustainable access to digital infrastructure and connectivity. Existing digital divides should be closed by increasing investments. These should be focused especially on full digital inclusion and equality for youth, women, and traditionally marginalized groups in line with the attainment of SDGs 5 and 10. As all aspects of everyday life move to the digital sphere, we must establish a common international convention on digital rights and data protection regulation. This framework should first and foremost protect fundamental rights and define responsibilities of platforms. It should also subject the use of personal and public data to high standards of transparency, decentralization, data minimization, and privacy by design. To equip young people to engage safely and productively with the digital environment and online financial services, we must embed digital skills and literacy in educational curricula for learners and professionals. Individuals should be trained to develop critical thinking, as well as media and financial literacy in formal and non-formal educational settings. For the protection of our planet and our future, we must regulate the environmental impact of digital technologies and financial services. In line with SDGs 9 and 13, governments should mandate stricter regulation, such as transparency reports that detail annual electricity consumption and corporate carbon footprint. Finally, for all those measures in digital policy fields, we must ensure transparent, representative, and participatory decision-making processes. With shifting demographics in Germany and around the world, the responsibility for the digital era will increasingly lie with younger generations. Honorable delegates, let us step up to that responsibility and put people at the center of the fourth industrial revolution. I'm looking forward to collaborating with you all in the coming weeks and months. Thank you very much.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of Germany. Now let's turn to Delegate of India.
Namaste. Wishing everyone a very good morning, good evening, and a good afternoon. And thank you for giving us this opportunity. My name is Varun Javeri, and I'm representing the digital transformation track from India. Concerning our policy paper, we have a few recommendations. Digital transformation has been a great enabler across the world in achieving objectives that seemed unachievable before several decades. This has necessitated the use of digital ecosystems by all the Y20 member states in achieving the socio-economic objectives. When we look at India, we have made several reforms, whether with regard to the fintech platform that we have or the healthcare stack that we have built. Currently, we have, in terms of the fintech, we have the highest transactions that take place, more than 40.5 billion. So in terms of our policy recommendation, we have recommendations in 5 particular tracks. Number one, with regard to infrastructure, we strongly feel that every country should start thinking about building a public digital good open architecture such that startups and young people can come and develop services for the end mile citizen delivery. Second is there to how to implement the next generation communication infrastructure such as 5G and optical fiber to increase accessibility for young people to forward their particular technological advancement. The second theme that we have is with regard to digital security and standards. We feel that every country, and especially as Y20, we need to devise common operating standards that are safe and secure to ensure interoperability. At the same time, we need to institutionalize a robust digital security framework concerning cyber security, and we need to secure both personal and non-personal data so that it does not infringe upon the privacy of our citizens. The third theme is with regard to inclusive digitization. We need to provision government services, especially in remote geographies, so that all the young people can access government services more easily. Fourth is with regard to capacity building and awareness generation. We feel that we need to utilize skill development centers for building digital literacy and digital financial awareness, and also blend it in our learning curriculum so that this building of digital literacy can start at an early age. We should also partner with NGOs and civil societies and other interested parties to scale the skill development and literacy program. Fifth is with regard to the innovation. We feel that strongly that the Y20 community, and especially all the countries which are included, we should try seeing what are some of the policy interventions that can come for creating innovation hubs, especially for youth-led startups, so that we can work on the emerging technologies. We feel that coming together, this can become a great starting platform for the entire Y20 communities to start pushing the digital transformation journey where we can involve the entire global youth. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate of India. Now I'll turn the screen to Delegate of Indonesia.
Selamat malam, pagi, sore, good evening, afternoon, and morning, delegates. Thank you, Honorable Chair. Let me start by the positive note of how we embrace digital transformation. Indonesia is proud to have one of the largest digital economies in Southeast Asia, at an estimated $70 billion in size in 2021 and expected to more than double to $146 billion by 2025. We have one of the fastest rates of digital adoption in the world, and digital services have transformed the way we live and work. And the COVID-19 pandemic has forced us all and all other countries to digitalize even faster. Without a doubt, many fellow delegates will agree that digital transformation is here, and it is something that we all want to embrace. The digital world is no longer an alternative reality that we can choose to not participate in. Increasingly, it is integrated into our daily lives and work. So it is ever more important for us to pay attention to the policies that we will form in the digital world. However, a digital divide exists because of a lack of access to adequate internet broadband connectivity, which is necessary for larger and more productive digital uses. This is why a key policy area Indonesia will focus on is to explore ways in which more digital economy players can contribute to the investment and development of stable broadband network connectivity for greater access and participation in the digital economy. We will also focus on other key critical gaps in infrastructure for a digital economy, such as the need for digital identification. This is crucial not only to improve the digital capabilities and efficiency of the public sector, but also to enable private sector players to easily onboard and verify identities, for example, which will reduce the friction for further digital adoption. Data, its protection, and its privacy remains unregulated in many parts of the world. And given how the internet and data is a global phenomenon, we need a more coordinated approach in ensuring common technical, legal, and ethical frameworks for data protection and cybersecurity. This is necessary to ensure greater cooperation in the digital economy, which will soon become large contributors to our GDPs worldwide. And in our engagement with Indonesian youth over the past few months, we heard that data privacy and cybersecurity is top of mind and a key inhibitor to the trust required to more fully participate in a digital world. This is something we must urgently address. More importantly, we want to address digital financial literacy. We believe that financial inclusion is not only about access, but true inclusion also means adequate literacy. And that is a key policy area we will be focusing on. Overall, the Indonesian delegation is excited for and warmly embraces digital transformation. We have experienced extraordinary growth in our economy, and we look forward to growing that further. Our key policy focus areas are on physical infrastructure for universal and equitable broadband connectivity access, regulatory infrastructure in the forms of data privacy, cybersecurity, and regulatory enforcement, and of course, last but not least, digital and financial literacy. We look forward to discussing these topics further in the coming months. Thank you. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Delegate of Indonesia. Now let's hear from Delegate of Italy.
Thank you for this opportunity to share our ideas. So young people are both beneficiaries and drivers of the digitalization phenomenon. Therefore, it is essential for global leaders to incorporate their views and perspective within decision-making to the point of putting the youth in a position to take an active role in digital governance, which is the key focus of this proposal. So two sub-themes I would like to put the emphasis on. The first one is digital infrastructure in the sense of facilitating the realization of the transformation potential. 2 points on this. First and foremost, they need to tackle absence of connectivity by accelerating construction of a reliable ICT infrastructure and securing access to high-speed broadband across all regions, including rural areas. I believe this goal could be achieved by establishing a network for the sharing of best practices with regards to standardization in regulation and in ICT industry policies. Also, this initiative could be reinforced by organizing a recurring meeting on this topic with the participation of relevant ministries and by inviting non-G20 interested countries to join this sort of knowledge sharing network. On a parallel note, and this is the second point, the governments should also agree on allocating funds destined to young citizens upon request to cover the costs of buying computers and other IT tools. Actually, this measure complements the previous one by removing economic barriers for internet access at the household level, because it really makes investment for digital infrastructure truly an opportunity for all. The second sub-theme I would like to highlight is the importance of building digital competence in the public sector, because the provision of services by governments really affects the quality of life for citizens. So 3 points on this. First, G20 countries should move towards the adoption of an e-governance model using digital platforms and emerging ICTs, because this would promote a sort of multi-stakeholder model of governance, allowing the youth to become meaningful partners of decision makers, given how young people are often digital natives and how they've proven to be quite politically active. Second, the pandemic has compelled several government agencies to accelerate the offer of digital services to minimize physical contact. However, given how the public sector often lags behind in terms of incentives to innovate, leaders should leverage public-private partnerships to enhance the digital capabilities of the public sector. Third and final, there should also be agreement on a set of KPIs to measure progress on the digitalization phenomenon. So just as a non-exhaustive example, percentage of transactions that are completed digitally end-to-end. I would like to use the final seconds to remind that even though digitalization is a positive phenomenon that today pervades our lives, this should always be considered not as an end in itself, but as a means towards improving the well-being of present and future generations. So I urge leaders, also as delegates, to always consider the adoption of digital initiatives in alignment with wider long-term social, economic, and environmental objectives. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate of Italy. Now let's hear from Delegate of Japan.
Hi everyone, and I am Wakana Sano from Japan. So digital transformation is obviously crucial for all of us for further economic growth, which is, I believe, the basis of human rights principles. So for the two sub-themes of digital transformation of this Y20 summit, we have digital governance and digital financial awareness. And for these two, I have 2 points for each. Let's start from the digital governance. For this topic, I would like to urge to G20 governments to establish shared KPI and tracking structure to promote more talents from the technology industry and digital native generation into the decision-making processes within governments and businesses to tackle the lack of decision makers with practical technology perspectives and accelerate the development and implementation of concrete, agile digital services in both public and private sectors. Another point for digital governance, G20 governments and business entities should encourage the human resource reallocation in the whole society and economy to overcome the concentration of IT talents in certain industries and the definitive shortage of human resources with digital skills in the ground level by establishing a common, appropriate, flexible salary and work condition systems for laborers with certain IT skills among companies. So these 2 points are something that I would like to say for digital governance. And moving on to the second sub-theme, the digital financial awareness, I also have 2 points for this. The first is G20 governments should strengthen the PR strategy and actively inform the government-led digital transformation acceleration plans, especially for individuals, SMEs, and possible entrepreneurs in rural areas by involving young talents who excel in digital marketing and promotion skills to improve the public awareness toward the existing acceleration plans and governmental initiatives and supports for digital transformation, including digital financial services, which is very important factor for the businesses or possible entrepreneurs. And the second point is G20 governments should build the baseline of cybersecurity, data privacy, and data structure regulation to make the digital financial transaction available for businesses and individuals with the least risks and concerns on data privacy and their assets based on the human rights principles in the digital era, along with the improvement of awareness and literacy towards digital finance. So I look forward to hearing diverse and different opinions from you all to move forward together for our better future and society with technology. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Delegate of Japan. Now let's hand it over to Delegate of Mexico.
Hello, good morning, good night, my fellow delegates. It's very nice to hear your proposals. I would love to start with a small overview of the Mexican situation. Mexico is a country of 130 million inhabitants, of which 72% have access to internet on at least one device. We have 80.2 million people from ages 6 up to have access to mobile phones, at least one. And the number of people in Mexico who are in a situation of extreme poverty, this is, well, just below the minimum welfare levels, is equivalent to the 10.8% of the total population. Mexico is the Latin American country with the largest number of indigenous people. We have a 15.1% of the population. And these people from indigenous origins, as well as those who live in rural, marginalized, or in impoverished communities, are the most vulnerable to suffer the technological isolation. This is how I structure my policies, thinking about, well, the whole population of Mexico, but with a special scope into marginalized communities. The first policy is the democratization of internet access through the use of existing technology. This because, for example, the technology used for open TV broadcast is on a spectrum that is widely in disuse right now, and it represents a huge opportunity as the demand of mobile data is expanded largely in our economies. And in the next 5 years, these will begin to be an adequate technology to use in terms of internet access, because it reaches several kilometers and is not interrupted by walls or trees. The second policy is about educational models and technological approach into them. The first scope is to guarantee educational models that promote the access to digital media as a part of learning tools from basic education for students into the basic parts of school from 3 years to 29. And also knowing that, at least for Mexico, the efforts to achieve digital inclusion are not necessarily equal to the efforts for reaching financial inclusion. This policy also considers how to promote financial inclusion through basic education, and this is through MOOCs. So we have to guarantee access and the cooperation with the companies that provide them. And the third policy is to encourage payments of public economic support through digital means.
Mexico, that your time has already elapsed. We can continue the discussion in the next on record session. Thank you so much for your intervention. Now let's hear from Delegate of Russia.
Hello, everyone. As a delegate from Russian Federation, I would like to start with my proposals. A digital transformation gives a great opportunity to create stable human-centered society. And COVID-19 showed us how important this transformation really is. As a representative of Russian Federation, I would like to share my proposals with all of you, and my proposals is divided into two parts according to our main sub-themes: the digital governance and the digital financial awareness. And I will start with the first one. To create accessible internet, we should build an energy-efficient digital infrastructure and lower internet costs while accelerating the speed of 5G network implementation by providing financial support and exchanging successful practices. And implement digital literacy as part of educational systems at all levels. And distribute digital learning tools and infrastructure to increase learning efficiency and ensure a fundamental human right to education. To create effective digital government, we should adopt human-centered AI as tool in government decision-making based on the principles of meaningful human control, transparency, explainability, fairness, justice, inclusiveness, sustainability, and education. Facilitate a public-private partnership model to accelerate the digital capacity for the public sector and create effective digital platforms as part of digital government infrastructure. To create safe digital space, we should develop a common position on international law on cybersecurity and personal data, while ensure a free and safe data flow. Create the digital identification infrastructure to make an internet a safer space, and implement multi-stakeholder model to decrease the spread of misinformation on the internet. And moving to the digital financial awareness sub-theme, we should develop a joint position on cryptocurrency legal status and its place in the future of our economy. Accelerate the implementation of central bank digital currency with data safety in mind. And by reskilling and upskilling the members of vulnerable communities, support an integration and reintegration process in the workforce. And I'm looking forward to discuss further our proposals with all of you in the coming month. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate of Russia. I'll turn the screen now to Delegate of Saudi Arabia.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be. We, the Y20 Saudi Arabian delegation, wish to offer our thanks to the Indonesian Organizing Committee and the respected Y20 delegates and observers. Could you imagine 63% of us youth do not have internet access at home, according to UNICEF and ITU? Digital technology continues taking on an ever-increasing role in all aspects of life across both developed and developing worlds, including our schools, workplaces, and even homes. Therefore, it is of paramount importance to appreciate the dynamics of the ongoing digital transformation and understand the critical role that our youth play in shaping the futures of our respective nations. We emphasize the urgency and importance of accelerating the creation and implementation of the educational frameworks for all people on digital skills, including digital rights, computer science, and others by 2025. Therefore, we recommend the following for your consideration. First, develop responsive education systems to include evaluations and assessments at all levels and ensure the curriculum equips the youth with digital skills such as coding, soft skills, and adaptability to play vital roles in these systems. Second, combat the digital divide by examining various levels of digital literacy among youth and enhancing financial awareness through increased exposure and accurate information regarding digital systems and their usefulness due to increased misinformation. Third, educational programs should be developed to use a risk protection model that increase cyber safety awareness and prevent unsuspecting youth from exposure to online risks such as phishing scams and cyberbullying. Finally, enhance telehealth to promote a patient-centered approach by empowering patients as active decision makers and providing healthcare professionals greater flexibility which is particularly relevant nowadays, considering the increased workload due to the ongoing pandemic. Dear delegates and organizing committee, thank you again for your willingness and effort to encourage our youth through your guidance and expertise to shape the future as our world continues to transform quickly. We genuinely appreciate any further dialogues to provide our communities with a safe, sustainable, and ever-thriving digital future. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate of Saudi Arabia. Now let's hear from Delegate of South Africa.
Esteemed delegates, observers, and others joining us virtually, my name is Neil Swanepoel, representing South Africa. Just quickly, I'd like you all to take a moment to reflect on just what is happening right now. Equipped with a mobile device and a strong internet connection, we, as youth leaders tuning in from literally all over the world, are connected in real time. The very format through which we're engaging in today is a testament to the possibilities of digital transformation and what it entails for youth agency in policymaking. However, internet access is still not available to more than half of the world's population. And as my colleague from the EU so eloquently described, it can also be very, very expensive in developing countries. So that's why South Africa's first of 3 key policy priorities concerns meaningful connectivity for all. This includes financing, trade, and regulatory solutions to digital infrastructure, which extends everywhere and to everyone. Our second policy priority concerns digital literacy and the uptake of digital services. To this day, I still remember my first grade teacher, Miss Saunders, who taught me how to read and instilled within me a real love for books that continues today. You know, this principle speaks to the importance of educators and investing in their capacity to strengthen the digital literacy pipeline. We also need strategies that drive digital use from a grassroots level through channels such as social entrepreneurship, opening up possible cross-cutting collaboration with the youth employment track. Another key asset of the Y20 is our proximity to high-level policymakers and policymaking. That is why South Africa's third policy priority is to use this platform to build consensus on regulation and legal approaches for e-commerce and digital currencies. I'm also very keen to learn and engage further with my colleagues on the topic of e-government and how technology like digital identity systems and digital platforms for public services can be a force for social good. In this track, we talk a lot about connectivity, but mostly in the technical sense. We should remember that connection is also social. In South Africa, we have this traditional concept called Ubuntu, the idea that we're all connected and have a duty to realize a shared prosperity. I hope that this spirit of togetherness, of Ubuntu, will characterize our future engagements in the Y20 to ensure that our work and the resulting recommendations become an example of what youth can achieve when they are digitally empowered. Thank you so much for listening. I yield the rest of my time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Delegate of South Africa. Now let's hear from Delegate of the United Kingdom.
Hello. Selamat malam to our hosts in Indonesia, and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to my fellow delegates. I'm delighted to be speaking to you all today as the United Kingdom's Digital Transformation Delegate. 1998, the year I was born, the first iMac, lauded for its built-in Ethernet and stereo speakers, was introduced to the market. In 2000, the first camera phone was also introduced. And in 2010, 970 million people used social media. But in 2020, that number was 2.96 billion. The only constant in all of this is the speed at which technology evolves and the ease in which young people have been able to grasp these opportunities. Digital transformation, then, shouldn't just be about upgrading services to match the latest technological innovations, but it should be instead defined by the creation of agile institutions capable of adapting quickly to changing needs. To this end, we advocate for best practice data evaluation principles that foster a culture of experimentation, innovation, and establish feedback loops between citizens and their governments. Underpinning this is an urgent need for robust digital infrastructure and the prioritization of cyber safety and expertise so we can maintain bonds of trust between governments and service users. We acknowledge the existence of a digital divide, which mediates access to digital technologies such as the internet and informs how socioeconomic groups utilize resources. We propose to build upon the existing work done by G20 countries to provide internet access to all, with specific attention to those in rural areas with reference to developed countries like more developed countries like the UK, by accepting the crucial role that governments play in incurring costs of broadband provision where commercial contracts simply are not viable. We agree with the Y20 issue note on the importance of financial inclusion and appreciate the role of fintech in innovating financial products and improving accessibility for those traditionally excluded from financial systems. Aligned with the GPFI Financial Inclusion Plan, we encourage innovation in the delivery of financial services to increase financial access and sustainability. For example, exploring opportunities to incorporate gamification elements to promote financial resilience amongst young people, and empowering sustainable financial providers such as credit unions to provide a broader range of financial products. We've been impressed by the range and depth of policies proposed by fellow delegates, and we are greatly looking forward to developing our position and drawing upon the huge range of expertise and knowledge of our fellow countries. Thank you. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, Delegate of the United Kingdom. Next on the list, Delegate of the United States of America. May I please have the screen?
Good morning from New York. I'm Jasmine, the Digital Transformation Delegate for the US team. I'd like to share a prevailing issue our youth continue to face in 2022 amid a pandemic. As this pandemic continues to rage on, we must embrace technological evolution and get ahead of the challenges that have only been exacerbated. Despite a general increase in digital adoption across the globe, we see a growing rift in two segments of digitization among the youth: digital governance and digital financial inclusion. Here in the US, 92.4% of the population has internet access. The truth is, our digital market is unevenly distributed. It's oversaturated in some markets over others. In Northern California and its surrounding areas alone, we have big names like Apple, Google, Tesla, that rake in $13 trillion of aggregate market value. But the reality is that many American communities do not have the same sense of economic opportunity as a youth in that area. Research indicates that students who lack access to devices and broadband services have on average GPAs, that's grade point averages, that are 0.4 points lower than peers with reliable access. South Carolina, for instance, one of our southern states, ranks 24th in education spending out of the 50 states, but last in outcomes. They had to even put Wi-Fi on buses because kids didn't have internet access. Evidently, even in the United States, with its wealth of resources, we haven't done a good job of giving people equal opportunity across all communities. This is particularly the case for ethnic minorities and women. So now in this era where new technologies emerge, for example, utilizing artificial intelligence in a surgery room to support clinicians, cybersecurity threats loom, and our society invests in a cashless future through crypto trade. We must ensure that our youth are set up for success by equipping them with the necessary resources. By 2025, we can expect to see a net gain of 25 million digital jobs. But the question herein lies, how can we prepare our youth to enter this job force well-groomed? I have 4 proposals that will help answer this question. In the first sub-theme of digital transformation, we will address the current challenges that exist within digital governance through 3 initiatives. Every country will create a broadband service map at the national level to identify the availability, reliability, and cost of high-speed internet service across the country. Each country is to invest in a high-speed broadband connection to regions with high concentrations of youth through public-private partnerships to ensure efficient spend of government investment. The government should also invest in the digital proficiency of all youth by funding learning programs and skills courses on the types of jobs projected to dominate the digital market in 2025, and then providing training on digital skills that contribute to value-added work. To ensure healthy digital infrastructures at the face of data exchange, all G20 countries should consider entering a multilateral data governance framework in the bracket approach that group like-minded countries together as part of 5-year binding agreement to minimize security threats happening.
USA. We apologize that your time has already elapsed, but we're looking forward to hear and read the rest of the proposals that you're having in the next one.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you. Now let's hear from the observers. We still have 2 observers who are about to deliver they're equally valuable interventions. So let's hear from Delegate of ASEAN. You may please have the screen.
Honorable chairs, fellow delegates and observers, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great honor that I'm representing the ASEAN Observers Delegation here today. Digital transformations are inherently data-driven. For young people, the sharing of personal data presents both opportunities for improving personal growth, but also poses risks to privacy and the protection of the rights. Weak governance of digital transformation, coupled with inadequate investment in digital and civic skills and literacy, increases young people's vulnerability to online harms and mismanagement of their data. As prominent drivers of digital adoption and digital governance, youth must be at the center of reforming digital and data governance so that better futures can be better realized. Hence, at the center of this policy proposal is strengthening safety and ethics in digital activities and digital financial transactions through reinforcing cybersecurity outreach to all levels of society, especially among the youth and marginalized population. This will eventually enable us to build a trusted, secure, and ethical digital environment. In order to achieve this, digital and civic literacy are vital components to build this capacity in youth so that they can make the most effective use of digital technologies, manage their data, and determine the reliability of online information. This is also, of course, come hand in hand with governments and stakeholders to strengthen data protection and related regulatory framework to ensure holistic personal data protection and privacy is guaranteed. Second in the proposal is building agile and competent digital talents. As job requirements change and new jobs are created, the key challenge for youth is to acquire the necessary skills to remain relevant. Hence, first initiative is the focus should be given to integrating digital skills into education at primary and secondary levels, which also includes upskilling and reskilling the current workforce in the digital technology era. Second is digitally vulnerable youth groups should be put at the center of the development process of digital innovation, and we should recognize the catalytic roles of digitally savvy youth and their positions to assist more digitally vulnerable populations at adopting such transformations. Lastly, is driving digital public goods and services. Digital public goods offer a unique opportunity to transform social protection systems and reduce inequalities in low and middle income countries through empowering digital public services, social enterprises, and young people as co-designers. Hence, to achieve this, the countries need to think and increase capacity building among populations who are at risk of being marginalized in the digital economy around how to use digital technologies effectively. Second, to increase access to digital technologies and internet connectivity as well as penetration. And lastly, the availability of digital distribution of free, peer-reviewed, standardized scientific literature and data should be improved in a way that it is accessible, reliable, comprehensive, comparable, and interoperable. Thank you, and terima kasih.
Thank you, Delegate of ASEAN. Now let's hear from our last speaker this evening, Delegate from United Arab Emirates. You may please have the screen.
Thank you. It gives me great pleasure to join you today as we exchange ideas for a human-centered digital transformation, an inclusive digital transformation that empowers youth and propels all of society forward, regardless of age, gender, income, or geography. No one appreciates the change that the world is experiencing more than youth, the world's digital natives. Yet, digital natives are largely absent from global platforms that are shaping the future of the digital world. The youth perspective should be embedded into existing digital governance platforms and mechanisms, as well as national digital authorities. Youth should be able to directly influence the development of international standards, regulations, principles, and policies. Additionally, the relevant authorities must invest in comprehensive training programs that advance future skills, such as coding, the application of artificial intelligence, and blockchain, where youth are empowered with the necessary knowledge and skills to harness the full potential of frontier technologies, help build the digital economy, and innovate the fintech sector. Further, governments should incentivize the acceptance of non-traditional credentials among employers to benefit from agile and inclusive labor dynamics. These programs can level the playing field and upskill youth. A regional best practice is the 1 Million Arab Coders Initiative launched in 2017. To date, More than 1 million Arab youth enrolled in the initiative received online certifications in coding in partnership with the private sector. In addition, internships and job opportunities were offered to graduates, among other benefits. This successful model can be replicated globally and scaled, where we have 1 billion coders. Aside from digital initiatives, youth need support with digital well-being, where digital well-being frameworks can be established. A digital well-being framework will feature guiding principles that will shape government policy and build a conducive digital environment for and with youth. It will also guide the development of capacity building resources on various aspects of digital well-being, including digital citizenship, digital ethics, online privacy and security, and online financial safety, among others. To conclude, my 3 proposals today call for youth participating in global digital cooperation, in building advanced digital skills, and paying special attention to digital well-being. Thank you, and I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you so much, distinguished delegate. Now, I would like to convey our deepest gratitude for all delegates for having delivered your verbal intervention. We appreciate your time and effort researching, consulting with local youth communities and other stakeholders in formulating those stances and proposals. We evidently are able to identify many overlapping issues already. Some of them are, number one, close digital gaps by improving infrastructure and guaranteeing access to internet. Secondly, strengthen regulatory framework in cybersecurity, data privacy to ensure safe digital space. Thirdly, encourage public-private partnership to enhance digital capabilities, and then including youth as part of decision-making in public sector. And then we also hear points from some of the delegates to advance financial and digital literacy programs, including integrating digital and ICT in the curriculum of national education program. And lastly, we've heard many delegates mention about strengthening regulatory and legal approaches on digital currencies. These are only some of the most common proposals that we can use as our preliminary building blocks towards agreeing on common problems and common proposals for the final communique in both sub-priorities. We would appreciate if delegates start reaching out to one another bilaterally or in group to further shape and refine these proposals. We will share a written first draft in weeks to come for the draft communique. Remember that the final proposals have to be implementable for it to have a higher chance for policy adoption by the G20 leaders. But at the same time, it has to be relevant as well for most delegates for us to achieve consensus, which is where the challenge lies, I guess. So I would like to remind delegates who are yet to submit your written policy proposals, kindly please submit it to the OC using the link shared in the WhatsApp group. This is critical for us informing the first draft communique that you will work on collectively leading up to the summit in Indonesia. So with that, thank you so much, delegates, for your active participation in this session. I'm looking forward to seeing you again in the next on-record session on digital transformation track. But until then, stay safe and have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye. Take care.